Every morning, a 48-year-old man in Austin, Texas wakes up before dawn and swallows more than 100 pills before breakfast. He spends roughly $2 million a year keeping his own body from aging. He has a team of over 30 doctors whose only patient is him. His name is Bryan Johnson, and he has one goal, stated as simply as he can put it. He does not want to die. Not this year. Not in 10 years. Maybe, if he can help it, not ever. To understand why Bryan Johnson is doing this, you have to understand who he was before. He grew up in a large Mormon family in Utah. He built a payments company called Braintree, the company behind Venmo, and in 2013, he sold it to PayPal for $800 million. By most measures, he had won. But by his own account, in the years around that success, he was overweight, losing his hair, and living through a long stretch of depression and chronic sleep deprivation. He's described himself, in his own words, as a broken-down 42-year-old. So he made a decision that sounds almost absurd when you say it out loud. He would treat his own body like a company that needed to be turned around. Every system audited, every input measured, every output tracked. He called the project Blueprint. Here's what a day inside Blueprint actually looks like. Bryan eats his last meal before noon. His diet is almost entirely plant-based, built around a dish his team nicknamed Super Veggie, black lentils, cauliflower, mushrooms, followed by a mix of nuts, seeds, and berries he calls nutty pudding. Every meal is measured against a strict, precisely tracked calorie target. Then come the supplements. Over 100 of them a day. Things like NMN to support cellular energy, creatine for muscle and brain function, and compounds most viewers have never heard of like NDGA and Physidin, aimed at clearing out old, damaged cells. Add red light therapy, daily exercise, obsessive sleep tracking, and enough diagnostic testing in a year to rival a small hospital, and you start to see the scale of it. And here's the number that made him famous. Bryan claims that, according to several biological age tests, his body is aging at roughly 2/3 the normal rate, which would mean he effectively gets several extra months for free every year. His team has also reported measurements showing a heart that performs like someone a decade younger. Whether those numbers hold up to scientific scrutiny is a different question, one we'll come back to. But the ambition behind them is the real story. In early 2026, Bryan posted 3 words that summed up where all this was heading. Death is optional. What started as a private experiment on one man's body has become something closer to a philosophy and a product. He's turned it into what he calls a don't die protocol, gamified so people can track their own biomarkers and compare progress with friends because, in his words, humans are wired to respond to games more than lectures. He's also launched something called Immortals, a program offering his exact protocol to a small number of clients, priced at $1 million a year each. Applicants get his team's guidance, round-the-clock monitoring, and continuous testing. Longevity, for Bryan Johnson, is no longer just a personal mission. It's a business. Not everyone is convinced. Longevity physicians who've worked closely with Blueprint have pushed back on the idea that expensive interventions are what's driving the results, pointing out that most of the measurable benefit likely comes from the free, unglamorous basics: sleep, consistent exercise, and a clean diet. Even Bryan's own team has walked back parts of the protocol, dropping the drug rapamycin in 2024 after it caused side effects he hasn't fully disclosed. And then there's the deeper question, the one that isn't about biomarkers at all. Is this really about living forever? Or is it about a man who once described himself as broken, trying to prove to himself, more than anyone, that the story doesn't have to end the way he once feared it would? Bryan Johnson may or may not add years to his life. Science will need decades to settle that question, and by then, he may have moved on to some new protocol entirely. But he's already done something else, whether he intended to or not. He's made millions of people ask a question they usually avoid. If you had $2 million, 30 doctors, and total discipline, how much of aging would actually be optional? If this kind of story fascinates you, subscribe because next week we're covering the scientist who thinks he's already solved it.